This conference will now be recorded.
That's what we want. Budget committee has begun. No more laughing, no more fun. Okay? Just joking. Okay. So we will bring the Tilton Budget Committee meeting of Wednesday, December 9th, 2020 to order at 7:02. We'll begin with the due to space limitations during meetings as a result of COVID-19 restrictions. The public is encouraged to participate remotely with GoToMeeting using your smartphone, tablet, or computer at https://www.gotomeet.me/town of Tilton/budget. You can also dial in using your telephone toll free at 1-877-309-2073, code 689-470-829. If you have any difficulties, please email web@tiltonnewhampshire.org, which will monitor during the meeting. Is that all correct, Tim? Everything's good? Okay. All right. Could we get a roll call of who's present for the budget committee? Start with Bill Lawrence. Next, I think there's John Scanlon.
John Scanlon, present, and I'm alone at the moment.
Okay. And Ted Gargano.
Present and alone at the moment.
No.
Catherine Dawson.
Dawson here, and I'm alone.
No.
Okay, and I'm not sure who the other ones are over here. There's an S and a J.
I guess the J is probably me, Janice. And I am currently alone.
Okay. And there's another S.
Probably Selectman Constantino.
Okay. All right.
I'm here, and then it looks
Okay.
like Jeannie's on.
Okay, so Jeannie and so we have 4 members present. I think we will skip the Pledge of Allegiance, just as seems hard to do at the moment, and we'll begin with the review of the minutes of December 2nd. Has everyone had a chance to read those? I'd just like to make a couple of points that we would include in the motion. I think on the call to order, we were remote completely last week, right? Because in the minutes it says we're in town hall.
Okay.
And the first paragraph called to order says the budget committee is meeting at town hall.
Okay. I will make that correction. I don't have my minutes printed, so I'll just have to write these things down this time. Usually I make them right on it, but go ahead. So just remove the
Okay, so there was.
Okay.
And then on page 2, I just asked about the raise for the budget committee.
Okay.
But I think part of that increase was for secretarial duties.
Okay.
And I don't see that was included on there.
I will add that.
And I think that's my only additions.
I have one suggestion. On page 2,
Yeah.
near the top, B. Lawrence had made a motion not to sign Lakes Region Mental Health. Instead of an abbreviation, we need to put Lakes Region Mental Health.
Okay.
Or the abbreviation with Lakes Region Mental Health under in parentheses.
Sure. That makes sense. Anything else, Catherine?
No, they're good minutes.
All right. I'll make sure on all of them, I'll go and add some, make sure I don't abbreviate.
Yeah, if you use the abbreviation once, and then, like I said, put down what it is, you can use the abbreviation throughout the rest of it. But
I guess I was cutting corners. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I'll move we accept the December 2nd minutes as corrected in order to get any more discussion on the floor. Is there a second?
Dawson, second.
Anybody else? Are you still reading or?
I'm good. Scanlon.
Gargano, Theodore, good as well.
Okay, so all those in favor? We'll start with John Scanlon.
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Catherine?
Dawson, yes.
And Bill Lawrence, yes. Okay. So now we have Tim Pearson up the finance report. I see that we just got a new update, but I didn't even get a chance to look at that. Was that just sent today? Or?
Yeah, it's tweaking, and I was going to go through it just verbally. So if you don't have it in front of you, I was going to put it up on the screen as well. But a few changes here and there. There's only one big change.
I have it up. I have it up on my email, so I can go through it with you.
Okay.
How's everybody else? Do they have it in front of them or?
Yes.
I have it. Dawson has it.
Gargano has it.
Great. Okay, Tim, go ahead.
Okay. So Janice had asked me to come and go through the other departments with the exception of the police department tonight, and you've already been through Public Works. So I was basically going to be going through the other departments in detail, and if you have any questions on either the police that you don't want to wait until next week for, or if you have a question after Kevin had spoken to you about the budget, I might be able to answer those. And as you may recall, Kevin had suggested some changes to his budget where he could save some additional money. And I did make 3 of the 4 changes that he suggested, and I'll go through those as we get down to it. The big change in here is regarding the financing and the payment for the police station. So we went from an initial budget increase of 5.2% now to 4.1% from the departmental request. And that was largely due to how we're approaching the financing. So give you just a little bit of background on that. The Board of Selectmen have decided to go with Franklin Savings Bank for a loan which will allow us to pay down principal with no penalty, so that when we sell the old police department, we'll be able to apply that money to to reduce the principal with the approval of town meeting. And we'll also be able to hopefully collapse all the additional contingency money, so that we're only borrowing what we absolutely need to borrow, as opposed to were we to go with New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, we'd be having to borrow more than we might need at the end. And the difference in interest rate is really not that great. So we were looking at a 1.71% 20-year through the bond bank, and we've secured a 1.95% through Franklin Savings Bank. But because the principal is going to be less through Franklin Savings Bank, through those items I mentioned, it'll allow us much more flexibility, and also the ability to refinance it at any point if there's some sort of government program or something that helps us get down to a 0%. So in any event, that's the big change. I'll go through it when we get to the finance department. But to start out, you can see on the first sheet, and I will, just in case there's someone else watching, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so we're looking at a $211,688 increase over the 2020 budget, roughly 4.1%. And to go into the departments, within the administration department, I've started putting in the notes, as you can see. If you'd like me to go through each of these, I can go through line by line, but basically these are all the same. The selectmen and trustees are the stipends budgeted. The administrative overtime, this is for the deputy town clerk, tax collector, and administrative assistant. It's been significantly reduced from prior years, and last year was the first reduction, mainly because the administrative assistant does the minutes from the recordings and not from attending the meetings and doing the recordings. Then you see the salary for the town administrator and the administrative assistant. The administrative compensated absences, those are part of the town benefit that allows employees that have been working for the town for a certain number of years to be able to buy out a portion of their paid time off. And there are 3 people within town hall that are eligible, and so we never know exactly how much someone is going to buy out, but we try to budget an average, and that's what we've put in each of the years. The merit pool is based on a 2% average. Keep in mind that the actual awards could be either higher or lower, depending upon the employee's performance and what the Board of Selectmen decides is appropriate for that employee. But the merit pools were based upon 2% of wages. Administrative office supplies, we did have additional office supply expense this year because we were doing a lot more printing and sending things out to people. You'll see that also in the town clerk tax collectors line. That was part of our accommodations for COVID. Travel expenses, this is for the vehicle. If there's any mileage charged to this line when the vehicle isn't available, and you'll see another line for the vehicle. We did not have any mileage expense so far this year. And it's just one of those things, unless things open up and people are able to go to conferences next year, it's unlikely that we'll spend a lot there. The administrative dues, these dues, the $4,161 are made up of these items that you see below. So it's basically for the town and town administrator, the majority of which is the New Hampshire Municipal Association for $3,691, and then New Hampshire Municipal Management Association, the Association of Assessing Officials, say that 3 times fast, and the Association of New Hampshire Public Employers, and NRRA, which is the Recycling Association. Postage, we've so far underspent the postage. Hard to say where we'll end up, but we'll probably end up just slightly under 1,000 for the year this year, and that's what we're budgeting for next year. Printing, we're looking at reducing the number of copies of the town report in 2021. We printed 400 copies this year because of the bond articles that were in there for both sewer and for the police station. So we've reduced that, and that's an approximate cost, the $7.50 a piece. That includes all the setup that they do, the coil bound, and a certain number of color pages in it. So that's been reduced down to $2,300. Training. So this is something that that was reduced, and I don't know if Jeannie. I think Jeannie is on the line. I don't know if she's able to hear. Hopefully she is. But and if you want to chime in at any point, Jeannie, feel free. But under the training, when we were discussing this, there were fewer opportunities to take advantage of classes this year in 2020, obviously, because of classes being canceled. There was a move to do more online webinars and that sort of thing, which we have taken advantage of. Primex provides a lot of wonderful free education, some of which is, or a lot of which is available online. And so we're anticipating doing more of that in 21. And I think you heard much the same from Kevin when he went through his training line. The administrative equipment, maintenance and repair. This is really our infrastructure inspections and certifications. So there's the boiler, the elevator, lift. It's actually not an elevator, it's considered a lift. But in any event, that includes also the inspection and preventative maintenance on that, and then the inspections of the fire extinguishers in Town Hall. Administrative advertising. This is where the town administrator will put ads out in the papers when we have an opening. And right now we are fully staffed. So that had been reduced. And I believe this is just that probably could be reduced further. So I will have to, I'm going to flag that. And Jeannie, are you able to hear?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, finally.
So in any case, this could probably come down, given that
What's that?
The administrative advertising, the department request. I had a note about reducing it. So in any event, we are currently fully staffed in both Public Works and Town Hall, and that could probably reduce some. However, I'll caution that when we have had changes and we've had to go out and find people, sometimes it's taken more than one ad cycle to get an appropriate pool of people to interview. So, in any case, that's one item there.
I don't know what, I don't have it in front of me, Tim. What is the budget now for that?
$1,000. I have it up on the screen if you're in front of a computer, but
I'm accessing through my phone, so all I can see is your face. Well, actually, I see Bill and Janice too. So,
All right.
but yeah, I agree with you. I think that can be reduced.
All right, so I would think $600 would be appropriate.
I think that's right.
So I am going to just flag that, and we're just going to take care of this right here and now. How about that? So in equipment rental, the postage machine rental, we have a new a lease, a new machine and new lease, and it's less money. So so that came down slightly. The folder stuffer maintenance, that's the thing that folds and stuffs all the tax bills and Tilton times that we do twice a year, and then the town clerk uses it for the motor vehicle mailings, all the renewals each month. And there's some other jobs that get run through it, but basically It has a lot of moving parts, and it is great for productivity, but it does require some service calls during the year. So rather than paying time and materials, which I looked into, and it was much more costly than going under the service contract. So this is what I anticipate this service contract to be, $595. It was just slightly less for this year. In equipment purchases, this is what we had done in 2020. We were able to secure fireproof cabinets for very little money from the White Farm, thanks to Jason Wright, who manages that property for the state. And then we also purchased that COVID hygiene fogger, if you will. But for 2021, we reduced it, thinking that we're pretty well set in everything. If anything, we might need a replacement chair here or there, and so we've set aside some money for that. That seems to be the things that take the most wear and tear in the offices. In the administrative expense area, so this is the candy, Christmas wreaths, pre-employment background checks, that sort of thing, and we're hoping to maintain the budget for next year for that. We did, while we didn't have much candy that we spent money on this year, there were other COVID-related things that got charged this line for cleaning supplies, masks, that sort of thing. So, but we were able to manage that within the $3,000 budget for that line.
Do not touch my candy money.
Within the consulting outside contract line, it just keeps it open for the Board of Selectmen. It leaves $1 in there. And that could be for anything from a surveyor to some type of consultant they need to look into something. So the vehicle maintenance, this was the other line I referred to when I was talking about travel expenses. So this is actually the money that we spend on the town vehicle that sits in the parking lot. It was originally thought that it would be most useful to enforcement, code enforcement and health. And I think they do make use of that vehicle from time to time. And it's also used by the town clerk, tax collector, when she would go to conferences. I've used it in going down to Concord to meetings. But again, this year, there were a few things to go to, so the usage was very low. Here we have the salary for 2021. This is the budget for the moderator. This is from him. So we only have the one town election in 21. Same thing for supervisors of the checklist, and the supervisors was based off of prior figures in a one election year. The election registration line from the moderator includes money for the assistant moderators, ballot clerks, and food and refreshments. Again, that's for the town meeting election, the town election, I should say. Then we have the taxes. These are all payroll related or payroll generated items. So you've got Social Security, Medicare, our life and disability insurance, New Hampshire retirement group 1, which is non-police officer, if you will. The rates are going up in 21. So the state is on a fiscal year starting July, and as is New Hampshire retirement. We're on a calendar year, so the rates go up starting July 1st. So for the first half, the rate is the same as it was last year. 11.17% is the employer contribution, and in the second half, it's 14.06%. So that was a pretty significant increase, about 25% in that retirement percentage. The police departments, which I'll get to a little bit later if you want to go through any of those, but their percentage went up 19.2%, but it represented a much larger amount of money because of because of the high amount that it is already. It's in the 30%. The health insurance rates increased 6.4%. We had some minor, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 minor changes to employee plans, but keep in mind those can change during the year if there's a qualifying event and someone needs to change their plan they're entitled to, and we would have to find the difference somewhere. Dental insurance, we covered just the employee for dental insurance. Recording fees are those liens and other things that we would release at the registry. Tax map update. This is what we implemented this last year, was the GIS map service. So that's $3,000 a year. And then the updates to the GIS maps would be anytime someone makes a, say they do a lot merger, or there's, some other type of lot line adjustment or something like that that would require a change. We've allocated $500 for that on a time and materials basis. I have made the recommendation that we look at adding that possibly a small fee to help offset any time and materials cost of doing that to the cost of, say, a lot line adjustment or a lot merger. The reappraisal of property, this is our contract with Avatar for 2021. We'll be in the second year of a 5-year agreement. The legal expense, this is based on our actual legal expenses. We've had some extraordinary items this year. We hope to be back to a more normal basis in 21. We look at a lot of things when we're budgeting this, from any outstanding cases that have to do with abatement expense or assessments, as well as any other legal issues that are out there that could require additional legal services and increase our costs. So that has been budgeted at $30,000. Janitorial, the prices are the same for 2021, and we do budget some additional money for special cleanings when they do the the floors, do special cleanings on the floors, screens and windows. Electricity, so this is a tough one for me, because our rate with our new contract went down 12% for the delivery of electricity. This was going from 2019 into 2020. However, our usage increased, and I don't know if that's just simply the amount of lights that were left on or other things at Town Hall, but you can see that already we've exceeded our budget for the year for 2020, and that does not include December's electricity. So that's likely to be over 8,000 for the year. So that's that has increased to 8,000. That was one of the items that changed. Heat, we've maintained the same. Sewer, water, the same. Our sewer bill is based on the water bill largely, with the exception of the trough. Correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine. But in any case, that's why there's a difference there. In Town Hall maintenance and repairs, so this was one that the Budget Committee had asked about if there were things that could be done this year or encumbered. And so we are looking at leaving $3,000 for unplanned maintenance. These are items that we're going to present to the Board of Selectmen for approval. So again, this is just departmental requests and departmental suggestions. These haven't all necessarily been approved. But the $3,000 for unplanned maintenance, and then $1,000 to provide a gas line for the generator that will come from the old police station to Town Hall. And the things that we are anticipating encumbering through our recommendation to the Board of Selectmen is $10,475 for the building assessment, and $3,050 for the generator move, decommission from the police station, along with a transfer switch, and move and install it here at Town Hall. So that's what accounts for the $4,000. And if those encumbrances are approved, those won't actually show in the town report. Those will be encumbered through our funds at the end of the year and then added to the budget in the new year. As you know, I do my reconciliation once things are approved at town meeting. The police building line will go away with a $0 amount. There's no activity there and no need to retain that line. Senior center maintenance, that's been held steady. As you may recall, the senior center also has an expendable trust fund that was approved at town meeting and has been funded. The general janitorial supplies, and we typically do year-end restocking, so it remains to be seen. The only thing I don't know here is how much of the material that we still have on hand for fogging the buildings, for disinfecting them. So that might kick us a little bit over what our budget was for this year, but otherwise we'd be buying our supplies and restocking for the year. Workers' compensation, that did go down, and that was because of a premium credit. The property liability, a small increase there. Unemployment stayed the same, and Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid has maintained a small increase. They have done their major project, and that's what increased the cost from the 3- and 5-year averages from some time ago, and that was that whole communications project that they did. Would you like me to go on to the town clerk tax collector's budget?
Sure.
Okay.
Unless there's any questions from anybody.
No.
Okay. So in the town clerk tax collector's budget, the town clerk tax collector has requested a 3% increase. You see the salary also for the deputy. The office supplies, these were, you can see the listing. So she purchases tax bills that are pre-printed with the information on the back, and they're perforated. She also has books, and she has to keep current these motor vehicle books so that they can look up current values. The dump stickers we purchase every year. Certified mailers are required for all types of things from her office. And then just general office items, and then dog biscuits, which the public really enjoys. And people bring their dogs in here all the time, and it makes it a very homey place in the front when they do so. So that's what accounts for the $2,119. She's holding that steady from this past year. Postage is going to increase. Sorry, was there a question? Okay.
I have a
Postage.
question.
Oh, yes.
So the deputy town clerk tax collector, that 1% raise is recommended by the town clerk?
No, so that what you see there is the budget that you're looking at now represents a full year 2020 budget. So
Okay.
she's received an increase of I believe 2% in July, but because of the timing, the budget transfer has already been done for the merit line. So so what you see is essentially the increase is representing half the year. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's just confusing.
Yeah, it is, but it's reflecting the actuals that we have right now in the budget.
Yeah, I wouldn't want anyone to think that it was a raise beyond what the selectmen grant in their merit.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, all the raises that you'll see here, I believe, were done at the time of the merit award.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. In the town clerk tax collector postage, she's held that based on our actuals this year and primarily because they had to do a lot more mailings due to COVID, and just not knowing what's going to be happening in 21. And I thought it was wise to have it increased, and hopefully we won't have to spend that much. But she is insistent on making sure that people get the service from her office as she should, and they've been able to accommodate people with all sorts of things that they've sent out. So dues and training. So this was reduced some, and she's budgeted $1,200 for conferences, and then for her 2021 dues. It's hard to say what is going to be held in 2021. So that's what she put in for. The government reimbursements, this is something that we have to budget for, and it's really the vital records and the dog licenses that get reimbursed to the state. So the maximum that we would have in any year is about $4,900, but the reality is it's more likely going to be about 4,000. So this is the number that she came up with. We looked at a lot of statistics in terms of the vitals over the months and the trend. So the 4,000 is what she decided on. Election preparation. This is her line for the election. This has to do with the voting machine maintenance and coding, which there was an increase in the pricing for coding this last year, also printing the ballots and then paying for the meeting minutes. So that amounts to right about $1,200. Deed research, I have to give her some real kudos here, because there was a time, and Catherine, you probably remember, maybe you too, Pat, I don't know how far back it went, but when I first started here, we were paying somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $8,000 a year for deed research. And do you recall?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Cindy worked really hard to find. She tried a couple of different people over the years after her position was created as the combined town clerk tax collector, and she settled in on this one group, and she's been able to bring that price down to $2,500, which is really amazing. And they're very efficient. They're very inexpensive, and of course, the amount of the research depends upon the amount of activity that she would present to them. So we have to budget more than what the actual might be, for just in case. So in any event, I just wanted to say something on her behalf, because she's really worked very hard over the years to see that to bring that into a reasonable amount. So in finance, shall I move on to finance?
Sure.
Okay. So in finance, so you have a 6-member board for the budget committee. So that is assuming that you have a 7th person, because John, as your ex officio, would not receive a stipend. So you don't have a 7th member right now, but it's entitled to be there if you end up with a 7th member for 2021. The secretarial wages, and I have to say that I've had incredible pleasure working with Janice on all the budget committee issues, and she's kept me up to date on things, and she's just been phenomenal. But I know also that it's taken a little more time. Back when Joanna was doing it, I think we were averaging about 90 hours a year. And but that also is indicative of the fact that Joanna had been doing it for so long. She had it down, and apart from some major thing that came up in the year which required more meetings, it was pretty much within a given range. So this represents, this 164 hours represents, I think, a first year look, or maybe more for the activities that you have now. So that's what it brings it up to the 5812. The budget committee expense, that's for if you want to send people to the budget conferences. Those have typically been about $90 a piece. And then any kind of binders or other meeting materials, books, or I know you got your NHMA budget books recently, budget law, things of that sort. That's where that would be paid out of. The audit, we are in a, this is now I think we are in the third year of a 5-year contract for the audit services. And the actuarial services, this is actually going to be a first year of a 2-year contract for actuarial services. We're required to do that, and this really comes into play for borrowing any kind of money. And you have to maintain government accounting standard board practices, not only in generally accepted accounting principles of how we do things on a day-to-day basis, but then all the financial reporting has to basically fit the mold so that when analysts are looking at our financial information, they can make a determination whether we're a good credit risk, a bad credit risk, how our cash flow is, whether we have the ability to pay our obligations, over a set period of time. And part of this actuarial part is because the New Hampshire retirement liability was determined 2 years ago, or 3 years ago maybe, that it's not actually New Hampshire Retirement's liability because they never employed the people. So it was divided up among all the member towns. And this wasn't just a New Hampshire thing. This was a Government Accounting Standards Board statement, which prescribed how retirement systems would distribute their liability to their member agencies. And so because of that, we have to do an actuarial service. Believe me, it is a very low cost compared to what actuarial services are. So this is really finite and focused on just this one GASB standard. So in any case, that's what accounts for the $18,600. My salary is on the next line. The treasurer and deputy treasurer follow. Finance supplies, these are everything from forms and publications that I might have to buy, and just all sorts of different things in that. The postage, we're doing about 2,200 accounts payable checks, and that's the majority of my postage. And I don't have an exact number, but it feels like there's about 60, maybe it's a little higher than 60% is actually getting postage, and the rest we're paying electronically. And we try to do electronic payments wherever possible because it's much more secure, and you don't have checks that are lost in the mail or people that haven't cashed them or things of that sort. But it's not appropriate in all circumstances. In the printing, so this, I haven't spent any money yet, but I had ordered my checks. So those will be just under $200, and then I'll have another toner, and that'll be just about under $300 by the time that's done for the year. And I order those in December of each year. In training, so there's these are the items that I would hope to attend this next year. So the NHMA conference, Government Finance Officers Association meeting, GAP, which is the Government Accounting Standards Board update, and then the NHMA Budget and Finance update. That's always good to go to, and that's the same thing that I would recommend the Budget Committee go to. Now, so here we go. So in debt, the short-term interest. So we had this year, we had budgeted $58,812. And just to remind you, as I'm sure you may recall from my last presentation to you, that was made up of the interest that we would pay on the construction loan for the police station this year, And that's a requirement by DRA. That doesn't get put into a different fund. That has to be paid out of the operating budget. So in our warrant article last year, it prescribed the 37,000 and change that would be allocated for that interest. We've been very fortunate so far that in managing our cash flow this year, that number that you see there is going to increase exponentially, because as we've gone through the year, right now the building, the amount of money that we've borrowed on the building is so much more increased. So in the beginning, the amount of interest we were paying was very little, and then each month it's gone up exponentially. And so we're not going to hit the 58,000 this year because we've been good at managing our cash otherwise. But it is, but that's what that was made of. For next year, we were very fortunate, I think, in that we were able to get a 1% rate on our TAN. I'll pause for effect, because to me, this is just like the biggest win for my office as far as I'm concerned. This is a $3 million tax anticipation note that we treat like a line of credit. So we borrow when we need it, we pay it back as soon as we have the money. And it really helps us manage our cash during the year. And the 1% is going to allow me to reduce that down to 11,000. It's
That's
just
great.
Yeah, so
That's super.
it hasn't passed the it hasn't closed yet. It won't close till January, but in any case, that's how that is budgeted, and I'm very proud of that. So
That's tremendous. Yeah.
Long-term debt. So here we go. So this is the other area I just wanted to spend a few extra minutes in. The first item, the principal on long-term bonds. So we have the sewer debt, and you can see the balance of $1,805,000 as of the end of 2020, with 14 years remaining on that loan. And we did get notified by New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank that there were some adjustments in our favor. So the total amount's going to come down about another $25,000. But that's spread out over those 14 years. So, there isn't any relief in 2021 for that. So the budgeted amounts are from our debt schedule for $112,000. That does not include. I'm gonna try. That seems to be John's mic. I'm gonna mute John if that's all right. John, there we go. So the $112,000 is principal just on the sewer, that we're not budgeting to pay any principal on the police station. And here's why. So as I mentioned in the very beginning, by going to Franklin Savings Bank, there's no prepayment penalty. And we have the ability to take any monies that are left over at the end of the project, either through the owner's contingency, which there was money set aside for, or our construction manager's contingency, which there was money set aside for. And there appears that there'll be money remaining in both at the end of the project, meaning that we didn't spend everything that we had budgeted for. And for those contingencies, we didn't run into any huge problems, knock wood, as of this point, that required substantial amounts of money to fix. So that's not to say that there haven't been things that we have changed or modified as we've gone through the project, and there have been reviews and use of that money, but there will be money left over. So that money plus the proceeds from the old police station sale, if that's approved at town meeting, can both be used to buy down the principal. So that way, whatever our initial principal is, and I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere in the 4.4 to 4.5 amount, 4.4 to 4.5 million dollar amount, prior to the police station sale, that would be about a best case. So if we end up somewhere in the 4.1 or 4.2 million over the course of the 20 years, we'll be in good shape. And that means that any time during those 20 years, if there's any other sale of property or something unexpected, or we've whatever the case, if the selectmen and town meeting approved, we could continue to buy down that principal without any penalty, and it would also mean reduced interest expense over the course of the loan as well. So getting into the interest, so the way we've structured this is to do it in a stair-step effect. Our budget was already up significantly from 2020 because of a number of the expenses associated with the building. So what this schedule does is in the first year, so we would close on this loan in January. In July, we would pay no more than $51,000 in interest, and that would be the only payment we make on the police station in 2021. In 2022, we would pay more interest, and we would pay principal of a total of $183,000 payment in 2022. And then in 2023, we would start making our full payments of $279,000. Now, those numbers are based on 4.4 million, not 4.1 or 4.2 million. So I'm hoping that those will be high numbers when everything is settled and the dust is settled, providing town meeting approves a warrant article to apply the proceeds of the sale of the old police station to reduce the principal of the loan. So that's so just to give you a picture again, that's stair-stepping the town into this additional expense rather than really hitting everybody with the largest increase in one given year. So that is the long-term debt, principal, and interest. Shall I move on?
Sure, I don't have any questions unless anyone else does.
Okay. In information technology, so I've sent out a separate sheet for you, which basically is just breaking this out in a different way. And from the time that I last spoke to you, the board had approved, and we had negotiated more on the fiber solution that I had talked to the budget committee about. So we'll have fiber at the new PD, fiber at and we'll be using one phone system between the two locations. It will be as if we were extensions between the two locations. So we had higher costs here in the town hall that we're reducing significantly that help offset the higher cost at the PD. So all told, we're only spending a little bit more a month than we were before for lesser service, if you will. So so some of these categories changed slightly, but the total bottom line did not change. The departmental request of $104,706 did not change. So in hardware, these are really minor replacements, things that break, that sort of thing, the $4,000, and you can see how I've got it listed out. Of course, I know that we're gonna do some upgrades, and these are generally disk and memory upgrades to improve the speed. There will be one or two, probably two replacement systems during the year, and then occasionally a monitor breaks. Sometimes I've gotten a lot of free monitors. I don't have any right now, and I had to replace a printer last year and actually buy a new one. So sometimes we get some free things, sometimes we don't. It's been pretty sparse recently. In software, so the Board of Selectmen had approved a module for IMC, which handles evidence processing. So it will barcode cases and barcode evidence when it's brought in. It will help the PD to better track all the evidence that they receive. A lot of it's very small. It can be not lost within the police department, but if you have multiple people working within an evidence room, you really need to have a system that that everyone follows. And the best way to do that is to have something that they're all using this in the same way. So this evidence processing system, the software was $3,000, but the maintenance, which is what you see here, the maintenance was $450. Plus, also we were notified that there was a 5% increase for next year. So that 5% increase plus the $450 of maintenance is what makes up the TriTech IMC $10,150. The other things we have are security software. We have some software upgrades. We have the iWorks permitting and code for land use, and iWorks work order management for public works. In Town Hall, there's Avatar Assessing, Avatar Tax Collect, and Avatar Motor Vehicle or Clerk, and then MuniSmart Accounting. So as has been requested in the past, I've broken down each category by department as well. And on the separate sheet that I supplied for the IT department, it also shows a column up in the top right, a little grid that shows each of these totaled up by location. In services, we are currently in the 4th year.
I had a question just on the Avatar Assessing.
Yes.
We're buying Avatar's doing the assessing, but we're paying for it for their software. Or?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So there are you don't have to use both. So there are a number of towns that have Avatar Assessing software, but have a different assessor. They might have their own assessor or use a different company. It just so happens they have very good assessing software, and it's part of their municipal suite. So this is separate from the other contract, which is the data services, and then the revaluation, which is the one that you saw in the administrative department. So
what are we paying Avatar for?
I'm sorry?
If we're doing the processing here, what is Avatar doing?
Well, so both Avatar and us, we both use, and Janice could probably speak better about this than I can, but we both make use of the database. It's used extensively. Anytime there's any inquiry or question about a parcel, we go to Avatar Assessing, which has the history on the parcel. It has all sorts of information that the data verification and the services from Avatar have helped build. But this is what we use to keep track of the parcels, what the town uses to keep track of the parcels and the owners. And this is also what feeds tax collection when we go to do a tax bill. So the warrants are generated from the data in the Avatar Assessing program.
Okay, thanks.
So anytime deeds are changed, I don't know if you want to jump in, Janice, but you could probably talk for a half an hour about it, more than I could. But so in any event, so that's the software line. In services, as I was starting to say, the body cameras that the police use, this is one of these replacement plans. So we're under a service agreement. If something happens to the body cameras during this period of time, they can send it back and we're given a replacement, that type of thing. We're in the 4th year of a 5-year contract, and that contract is for $7,539. It's not just the body camera and hardware. It also includes Axons, which is formerly Taser International. It includes their evidence.com portal, which is where all the body camera evidence is transmitted, and it provides not only the officers but also the command staff and the prosecutor the ability to view and work with the video evidence. The radio recording maintenance, this is, there's a system that records all the radio traffic from the police department, and that requires annual maintenance. The copiers we do on time and material basis. There are 4 copiers in the town. Those were all free from the federal government that we got a couple of years ago. There's one color and one small black and white in the town hall. And then there's a large black and white copier that will go to the new police department, and then also the smaller black and white copier that they currently have. And they will definitely need 2 copiers for the, considering where the copiers will be placed at the new PD to cut down on travel time between them. We also maintain consultant hours. This is Cybertron for firewall, servers, troubleshooting. It's the people that I discuss our network topology with when we have problems or we've had any kind of breaches. They're the ones we've called in to help us with it. It typically has been 40 hours. The reason why I increased it to 60 is that we have a significant amount of technology, I'll just say, at the new police department. And I'm hoping that it will all work seamlessly and it'll just all dovetail and there won't be any problems. But it would be foolish of me to think that I'm not going to need to make sure I've got people on hand. This money, once we've paid it, doesn't expire. So it's only as we use it does it expire. So it's almost like a retainer, if you will. The G Suite apps, this is all of our Google backbone. This we have 53 users who are on Google, and that's across the town hall, police department, and public works. We have a lot of reporting that's done through there. We do our payroll collection through there, and a whole host of other things that that it seems like we're expanding on all the time. The nice thing about that is it means that we don't have to maintain a mail server and have a separate piece of hardware here, a separate server with the costs and upgrades and replacement that you would typically have to have for that sort of thing. The Alert Tilton service that you're probably familiar with, it's all based on usage. So like just this last week, as I'm sure you're all aware, if you receive these alerts, there were several alerts that went out, and we have to buy these. They call them. They're not minutes, but I forget the term they use, but essentially credits, and $1,100 should do it for the year. In communications, this is where the big change came. So we were able to cut down our Verizon wireless bill some by looking at a couple of the lines that we didn't need anymore. They were flip phones that were in the cruisers that saw absolutely no usage. So we were able to remove those. There were 2 others that were added, but those 2 will probably be paid for by a separate police fund. And then the fiber access for town hall and the police department, Belknap Mountain. So this is all internet and phone, is a total of $12,312. And there's also a communications overlap, which will be a one-time thing. So I think Dick had asked in a prior meeting how we were going to manage this sort of cutover, and unfortunately it's not very clear right now. So in terms of whether it's going to be weeks or a month. So I've budgeted a month for that overlap. That would be a one-time thing, and hopefully we won't need that much. So that obviously by the time town meeting rolls around, we'll know what some of these costs are, and we might be able to reduce that at town meeting. Supplies, these are all the toner for the copiers, the drums. I try to make sure that there are some mission critical printers that really need to have the original manufacturer toners in them. And that's primarily in the town clerk tax collector's office where they're doing titles and registrations, things of that sort. Most everyone else, with a few exceptions, we have compatible supplies, so we save a lot of money on those. And then this is also where we buy the toner for the copiers. So if there are no questions on information technology, I'll move on to land use.
I have a question.
Yes.
Back up the software, TriTech PD application software, $10,150. Is that per year?
Yes.
And this is for mainly the evidence barcoding?
Well, no. So the price increased by $450 for the evidence barcoding. The barcoding software was about $3,000 that was paid for this year, and the maintenance was $450 for that. But on top of that, there was a 5% price increase. So the combination of the $450 plus the 5% price increase on the $8,700 or $8,800 total at that point, or $8,900 total, it came out to $10,150.
What do they do now to track evidence?
So it's really done manually. Well, I should say it was done manually because we have purchased the evidence module, and I think, and I don't know if you would want to speak to it, Pat, if that'd be all right with the chair, or if not, I can go through it. But basically, they were doing everything manually. So things were tagged with case numbers, but someone would have to write down the case number the same way.
If you had multiples, you would have to go in. If there was a
There-
multiple, right? If you ended up seizing more than one item, then you would have to go in and do the reduction on, do the paperwork on, say you had 32 pieces of something that you were arresting somebody on, you would have to go in and do the 32 pieces of paperwork. In the case of the IMC software, you would do one write-up, and then you could record that with the software and scan it in as 1A, 1B, 1C, 1, and you wouldn't have to do the redundant software on those 32 pieces of paper. And it would follow through each process. So each evidence, you log it into evidence, and then it would give you what locker you're putting it into. And if that person was taking it out of evidence for court, let's say you needed it for court, then you scan it, and you wouldn't have to fill out the paperwork, and sometimes the paperwork would end up being very tedious and then lost, if you would. And then you would know where that exactly would. If somebody else was looking for that evidence, they would see that it was scanned for court, and it would show in that evidence. And it would show also, if you're going to take it for court, it would also say, oh, I've got 31 other pieces that go with this as well. And if it was 31 small pieces and one large piece, it would tell you when you initially scanned it that there's 31 small pieces in locker A and one out at the town shed because it's large evidence. And that's pretty much how they would track it now. With the scanner, it saves an amazing amount of evidence. Now, what they were doing before was paperwork, and now you have to take that paperwork, match it up, look up the case, and then go to the prosecution and look up the file and then figure out whether or not it can be dispersed and what can it go back to the owner? Can it be taken away? Can it be destroyed? And all of those things. And then once you determine whether or not you could do that, there's even more paperwork after that. So it was redundant paperwork, and then you had to fill file cabinets, fill the paperwork, which was filling the halls down in the basement of paperwork with evidence. With the scanner now, it's very easy, and obviously there's a tracking method to it as well, so, which is the key thing to most everything.
Right. In fact, we have a rolling cart with a laptop on it that has the scanner attached to it, and they can, with the new PD, there are new evidence lockers that are made specially for evidence, and they'll be able to go through and hopefully, process things more quickly and more reliably, so that it's really kept up.
Is that good, Catherine?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so if there are no other questions on that, I'll move on to land use. So we have the land use coordinator's salary and the land use technician support, which is Janice, and her line has increased because the board approved increasing the number of hours for the land use technician for the remainder of 2020 and 2021. So that's what accounts for the increase from 2020 to 2021. Land use supplies and miscellaneous expenses and recording fees, these were all kept the same as was the postage and advertising and education. Hopefully, the land use coordinator is hoping to see that people are able to take advantage of education in 2021. She'd like to see both the land use technician and also code enforcement officer take advantage of some things. The master plan update, it's the same as we've had. We keep $1 in that line. The professional consulting, this is when there have been town required engineering consultants. However, I have to give Leanne some kudos. She's been working with a consultant for some time that they often use on third-party engineering items. And that engineer has done a number of things for the town that have been at no charge. So that's Keach that she's had a long relationship, worked with him for many years, and so that's been a real advantage for the town. And she's been able to reduce the $1,500 down to $1,000 because she fully expected that on a number of items that the planning board might have had to go to him on that he didn't end up charging the town for. So. But she still budgeted some money for 2021. The salary for the planning board, that's simply the 6 members and the 1 alternate. Same for zoning board, 5 members and 1 alternate. And then the code enforcement salary, he also receives mileage twice a year, mileage payments. And he does not charge individual mileage to the town, and he does use his own vehicle. Conservation Commission, I do have a listing for that. It doesn't appear, I don't believe I updated that. I believe that note is going to be from last year, so I'll have to provide that too. But Conservation Commission's budget is down from last year, and let me just check. 32, 36, 38, 74, 74, 82. Now that is the so the notes there are current. So that's for the commission stipends, 9 members, and $800 for the secretarial work, workshops and conferences of $200, dues for New Hampshire Association of, help me out, John, Conservation Commissioners, maybe? And I forget what ANRS stands for, but I do see the payments go through each year. Then there's the salmon run maintenance, property maintenance, the water bills and brush removal for salmon run. That's all about $2,000. And then they do budget some money for consultation, professional assistance, and then miscellaneous expenses. So that's the $8,200. And then in the economic development, the plan charrette, this was one of the items that we're going to encumber from 2020 into 2021. And this was money that was moved out of this line into that contingency line. And so hopefully tomorrow night the board will approve moving that back into this economic development line so that it can be encumbered for 2021. And that again is all pertaining to one of Jeannie's passions and the work that she wants to see done in improving the economic development opportunities downtown for the town. Okay, and health and welfare. So we have our health officer's salary. We have miscellaneous expenses for the health officer. Those could be everything from water testing to batteries for camera to, testing, all kinds of testing supplies or gloves or other things that she might need. And Catherine, feel free to jump in anytime. But she does a lot of dirty stuff out there, slogging through things and gathering things that have to be tested. So that's the same as this last year. Is that fairly accurate, Catherine?
That's pretty accurate. There's a lot of miscellaneous stuff to die for testing of failed septic systems and, the thermometers I have to use, et cetera, et cetera. So you covered it.
Okay. And then we have the salary for the senior executive committee. So this is for the senior center. And there are 5 members of that. And we have the, let's see, the passenger bus. So that, let's see, the $6,000 for the passenger bus. I don't see Pat on here. Oh, she is. Pat, is that an error I have there?
I like it.
Yeah, I know. I think that's an error because
You go under the expendable.
it went into the expendable trust.
Right.
That should have been 0. So that
Right.
glad we caught that, and that's why I had that row hidden because it would go away.
Right.
So that
That's
reduces
bad.
that total there. So that'll be good. See, we have the welfare, the salary for the welfare director, the welfare administrative expenses. This is typically, she has postage expenses. She has supplies that she has to buy. She maintains offices not only in the town hall, but also at the Family Resource Center. And then also out of her home where she handles numerous things via telephone at night, on the weekend. And she has to have, basically a mobile office with her at all times. And then in the welfare general assistance, She did recommend increasing this to 25,000. You can see that as of today, the expenses are approaching the budget for the year, and of course there's a great deal of uncertainty. There is homelessness out there. She's probably the number one biggest issue that she's had is that the shelters are not open, so that she's not been able to house someone in an inexpensive venue, if you will, a shelter versus say an inexpensive hotel room. So that's caused her a lot of extra work this year trying to find placements for people where there were shelters that were able to accommodate people, or making other arrangements to relocate someone or get them other services that were more appropriate for them than the housing that they were originally seeking. There were a couple of people that were real challenges for her, I think, during the year, and she did a great job managing that within her budget. So kudos to her as well. Public Works, you did. I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yes, I notice there's no salary on the health and welfare. Let's see. No, I'm looking at the senior center. There's no salary for the director. Could you explain how that director is paid?
I can.
Go ahead, please.
We have a memorandum of understanding with Community Action Program. They supply a program director for 20 hours a week through community action funding, whether it's they get funding from the federal government and the American Elders Act that funds that. And that's our agreement when we opened 10 years ago that they would do that. As we go along and the need is greater, they will increase the hours. But right for now, we have 20 hours Monday through Thursday, and Fridays closed.
Thanks.
Sorry, I had to blow my nose.
Okay.
All right, so so in any event, if there are no other questions on health and welfare, if you'd like me to review anything in Public Works, but the only things I was going to mention were the lines. If you recall, when Kevin Duvall, the Public Works Director, presented to you, he said that there were a few areas where he could reduce his budget further. And so we have reduced, let me find it here, equipment supplies by $1,000. That was one of the items. Another item was in gas and diesel, reducing that $1,000. He did suggest that that possibly in radio communications we might be able to purchase one this year. That is still a possibility. However, based upon the amount of encumbrances already identified, it is that's one that's right on the bubble. So so I didn't feel comfortable removing that as yet, but it is possible that that could come out. And let me see, what did I miss? And then he had talked about building and grounds, if I can find it here. Where is it?
It's on 730.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. So that he was able to reduce by $1,000 as well. And he had mentioned that to the budget committee too. So 3 of the 4 items were reduced. So in place of $4,100, it was a $3,000 reduction in his budget. And yeah, so and I think also you know, we talked about sanitation and all that before. You know, we're getting close to the end of our contract with Pinard, and we are looking at going out to bid as well as doing it in-house, just for comparison's sake, so the Board of Selectmen has, you know, adequate information make a decision on what they want to do. The one thing that we are anticipating is coming to town meeting with a possible warrant article to change how we do the amnesty weeks. And I can't recall whether Kevin mentioned it before, but as you can see, we budgeted $9,000 for demo removal. We incurred about $24,000 of expense against it. And this is really having to do with our residential solid waste. We also saw our solid waste increase from 970 ton estimate up to almost 103 tons more to 1,073. So there's more waste and more demo material being removed. And I think that's partly because this year we've seen a lot of people staying at home doing projects. And when they do projects, if they're ripping something out, it's got to go somewhere. And presumably it was going to the dump at Amnesty Week. So one of the suggestions is to look at something modeled after like what Northfield does, where you're not limited to a given week in the fall or spring, but you get a certain number of items that you can bring each year, certain value to those that you can bring any time of the year to the transfer station. That's nothing that the board hasn't approved anything like that as yet, but that's something that Kevin's really interested in doing, and we'll be bringing to the Board of Selectmen to discuss with them soon. So the police department, we're going to skip that for now. I take it, and wait for next week for that.
Yes, yeah, we're going to do that next week. Yeah.
Okay. You will note the significant increases are generally building related, heat, electricity, that sort of thing. And then the service contracts for those items. There's almost $500,000 of HVAC equipment in the building, and there's about a I want to say $6,400, $6,500 maintenance contract that on the surface sounds wildly expensive, but when you think, if you've got a $500,000 investment in those systems, and there's about a 8-page preventative maintenance schedule for them, it doesn't seem to make sense to risk ruining that equipment. Of course, I don't know much about that sort of thing, but those are the sorts of things you're going to see when you look at the increased expenses there. In culture and recreation, I know that this budget committee has gone through these items ad nauseum, but just if I could just refresh your memory that within the park maintenance for the island is the $17,000, give or take, for the it is $17,000 for the bridge assessment or study, if you will. And then there's $2,500 for general maintenance for the island. So that was the big change there, if you recall. Park Commission expenses, these were directly from Parks Commission, had primarily the increase had a lot to do with the need for a new roof at Riverfront Park. And then the outside agencies, I know you know those better than I do, so I'm not even going to attempt to go through those. So if anyone has any questions for me, happy to answer them.
I would just say, Tim, thank you very much for your very detailed presentation. It's very refreshing to know everything that we're paying for. And I don't know if there's anybody in the public listening, if they want to ask a question, this is the time.
I have a question.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Tim, previously we hadn't been putting any money in the budget for the maintaining and cleaning of the statues, monuments in town. It would be around $200 a year, I think, should be set aside for the materials for cleaning and maintaining them properly. How would that fit into our budget?
So I would that be done by Public Works or or just?
We have volunteers that have been doing all of the labor, and it's just for materials for cleaner. Um, I know this year we're looking for some money. It was difficult to come up with it, but if it was in the budget, it would be a little more easy to have it set aside.
Yeah, I can think of several areas where it could be added, but I would think we had increased the park maintenance line for the island significantly. We added $1,000 to it, mainly because we were anticipating that Northfield wasn't going to be contributing. Once we've taken ownership of it. So it's possible either there or I can think of some of the other maintenance lines, but it would have to be in someone's budget, probably Public Works budget, but that they would have the money for the materials and then just coordinate with the volunteers.
Who would we talk to? You think there's enough already in it, or should we?
I would think so, but if you wanted to make sure of it, then I would say rather than I'm just looking here. I mean, I
Would
suppose
our
it could
commission
fall.
have something?
I'm sorry, what?
Would the Parks Commission have some extra money for that, or?
Uh, Catherine, do you think so? Or I mean, I suppose where I would think is either the parks building and grounds maintenance, because that's largely intended for Riverfront Park, but I'm sure we could put $200 additional in that line and have that earmarked for statue maintenance materials.
There are issues that are not in parks. And so Timetable Mabel, the one in front of Town Hall, the one up at the high school, they're not in parks. So putting in the Park Commission budget might be confusing. It probably would be better to put it in Public Works. Don't they have a line for the maintenance they do?
Yeah, and that's what I was
Building
saying.
and grounds?
I think it could either be this building and grounds has historically been for their building and grounds, but this last item here, parks building and grounds maintenance, we could add $200 to that 3,000 and make that specifically for the statue cleaning supplies.
I think it's, John, I think bring it up tomorrow night when we talk about the budget and have the selectmen add it to the highway,
Sure.
and then
Yeah,
we just make an amendment to the budget committee.
especially when we took out $3,000 of other expense. I think we could put $200 in there, to account for that, and note it so that it's clear. And I'm sure Kevin would happily procure whatever you needed for the volunteers.
Okay. Thanks. It looks great, Tim.
Great.
So Tim, this document has all the updated police costs, correct?
It does. Yep,
For us to study for next week.
that's right. It does.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, I had one more question. On the town clerk tax collector salary, it has it 3%, but all the other town people and employees have 2%.
Yes.
Why would we not put it at 2% and then ask the floor to change that?
Well, typically in the past, we put in what she's asked for and let the legislative body vote on it. That's typically what we've done.
Right. Go ahead.
Typically, we're just the vehicle because she's an elected official, and that's what she's requesting. And we're just the vehicle getting it out there to the legislative body.
Right, and what's different about hers from the other salary lines, just for you all to know, is every other salary line, if there's any merit increase awarded, it's done in July, whereas hers is approved in March and goes retroactive to January. So she is paid a little differently. So and that's because we don't know until after town meeting, but hers is a January through December, so that 3% would go retroactive to January, so it'd be 3% obviously for the year. Whereas, say looking at the deputies, the increase starts in July and goes through the following June.
And typically the town clerk tax collector has the last couple of years has asked for 3%.
Right.
Okay, unless there's more questions, thanks, Tim. We'll move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll be here if you need me. Just
Okay. I think next on the agenda, we have outside agency discussions. And one thing we just wanted to make sure, there was a little confusion on what we voted on so far and what we haven't. I was wondering if Janice has sorted that out.
Hi, Bill. I have. As mentioned last week, the Park Cemetery concert and Old Home Day have been funded. Have been voted on. And I have in my notes, I did have a question mark because on the last meeting, I think there was a motion, and I don't have a vote on it though in my notes, and that's why I'm questioning it. And that was there were four agencies: New Balance, Waypoint, Lakes Region Mental Health, and CASA. Only two of those had actual votes on them. But in my notes after that, it said to 0 on all of them. So I'm a little bit confused on that. I haven't had the time to go back to the actual recording to see how that actually flowed out because I was going strictly by my notes. So I don't have a complete answer on those two agencies, New Beginnings and Waypoint. Franklin Visiting Nurses Association was voted on, and that left the remaining, which was the Pines, Hall Memorial Library, CAP, and Catherine, I know at the last meeting you mentioned that YAP was voted on. I made a question mark. I went through all of the minutes and could not find that we did have a vote on the youth assistance program. Was there a particular meeting that you think that was voted on? Because I did a word search on all the minutes and I could not find that at all.
I believe we are waiting. We are going to vote on that, but then we're going to wait on the last update on COVID. If there was any kind of benefit from COVID for youth assistance. And I think she responded to that. Dawn, I think, responded, and we have a backup.
Yeah, that was Dawn, wasn't she?
Dawn Schimberg, yeah.
Yeah.
She had responded, and then we could take that into account and then vote on that.
Okay. That was regarding the payroll stipend, correct? Is that what you're referencing?
I believe so, yeah. Right. There was a credit.
Yeah. So, basically what I see that it leaves is Pines, Hall, Memorial Library, CAP, the Youth Assistance Program, and like I said, I want to say New Beginnings and Waypoint because I don't see those voted, an actual vote for those two agencies.
I kind of remembered that we voted 0 on 4.
That's
which had
right.
been Lakes Region Mental Health, the Waypoint, New Beginnings, and CASA.
And that's
I
what
thought those were actually
you're
voted
right.
0.
And that is how I captured it, but I don't have a roll call vote next to it, which is a little unusual. Usually I put the roll call vote right next to it. So that's what threw me a little bit. I can go back to the recording and try to find it and then do an amendment on the minutes and give you an update on that. But I have not been able to, like I said, according to my notes, I did not capture the roll call vote unless it was unanimous for all. And that might have been it. And I just didn't jot
No,
it
there's
down.
one of them, there was one negative and I think 4 positives, but everything else I think were unanimous. From what I remember, but you can check that out. I mean, the other thing that you said, you had sent a Pines Community Center email, but I had no attachment to that.
Oh.
So there was nothing in it that I could see.
Okay, well, let me double check that. Did anybody else take a look at that? Was there an attachment?
I didn't see
No,
it.
there was no attachment. I actually sent you an email about an hour ago or an hour and a half ago about it.
It was an email string, right? That I sent.
Yes.
I sent the email string. Was it at the bottom of the email string? No.
Didn't see it there.
Okay, let me resend that.
Yeah. And the other, let's see, and then we wanted to get some more information from CAP.
Yep. I've been in email correspondence with CAP explaining what is needed. She feels as though a lot of that has already been provided, but after a telephone conversation, we talked a little bit about what some of the specifics that are needed for the services, to explain the services, which I know was one of Dick's major thing, that he wanted to see exactly what they provide to see if we had overlap. Or at least I believe it was to see if there was overlap with some other agencies. And then she's going to, so Ian, we also wanted to see the comparison with the two counties, the Merrimack County and Belknap. And so she's going to work on a more comprehensive, detailed list of the towns that are involved, what they get, and the services that are provided. But to do that, she does need a little bit more time because she's working with about 6 to 10 other people that are going to have to pull some information for her. So her plan is to forward it to us on Monday or Tuesday. She does need a little bit more time because, people's vacations and what have you, she may not be able to get in contact. But she is working and she has a plan of attack. She's, explained it to me. It sounds like what the committee is looking for. And, as I explained to her that, there's just so much that's being asked of a lot of the agencies that, she's just another one of them. So she's working at getting that to us.
Great. I know a couple of years ago, they sent a very detailed comparison when it was the Franklin based and all the surrounding towns. They gave us a complete breakdown so that we could compare that. It would be nice to see that again. I don't know why they wouldn't have that for every town at their fingertips. But so we'll see what they send us.
Yeah.
There's Lake. I see on this. There's Lake Region Planning and there's animal control, but we don't have control over those.
Correct.
Okay.
Bill, just for clarification, in addition to, did you need any more information for the youth assistance program? I did not send a request to them. That's why I'm asking.
For what program?
The youth assistance program?
No, I think she responded. We just have to take that into account.
Okay. And so outside, and did you need anything else from Hall Memorial Library? I think we look pretty complete there too, but if there's something that you feel as though there's a need for that, let me know. Or anybody in the committee,
Yeah,
anything with Hall?
She did give us more information on that, right?
Yep, she did.
About how they were doing their pay program.
She had quite a write-up on the last on the last information she submitted.
Okay, so
if during the week, if anybody on the committee feels as though that they do need some additional information for any of the agencies, just, send me an email. I can reach out to them. They've been very responsive and very cooperative. I feel a little bit bad that we keep going back to them, but they all seem very like, no, what do you need? And I'll make sure I get it to you, and try to give me a realistic timeline for return.
okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome.
So, any input from anybody?
Yeah, I'd like to bring the Hall Memorial Library to the table for discussion.
Okay.
I think we've received all of the information from them on how they've been operating, and they have remained open and done it. And I think I'm prepared to make a motion to fully fund their request.
And could you give me an amount on that, please?
Um, Is that the 131,950? No. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, if we have a second on that.
I'll second that.
Was that Bill?
So,
Yep.
yeah. So discussing what was the wrap up from them? I don't have that right here somewhere.
No. That was the
Do you have
information.
that, John?
Yeah, it was in the email today. I'm trying to click through stuff here.
The email from the Hall Memorial Library was, most of that information was on that COVID explanation. And then I think we went back to her right after that. So let me just see if I can get to my email on this.
I know we were discussing whether or not they were open or not,
Yeah.
and how they spent the money. They had furloughed some employees, but they also hired a temporary employee, and they did stay open with the drive up. And they also provided books that went out. I think there was 300 and something books that they went out with the kids with the lunches to keep them going. They had to keep their maintenance guy on. Of course, you got to maintain the building anyway. And they spent a lot of money on the screens and the plastic and all that, as well as the electronic books to cover for COVID. So it seemed pretty well covered.
Yeah.
And it's our library. It's, we share it with Northfield. It's not like it's an outside agency per se. It's just part of our town, and it's kind of amazing how well they've done at keeping a library viable and in this community, or this with the technology stuff that's going on. it's really important to have that. They've also been a good community center for people, whether they're homeless or just need a place to kind of sit around and read and stuff like that. And it's a good, safe place for that and reading for kids. And hopefully next year in 2021, they'll be open a lot more. They're prepared,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to need this money.
Well, this is one of our smaller community organizations that is always there for you for the most part. Is there any other input from anybody on that? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Start with all those in favor of the motion for 131,950. Start with John.
Yes, I.
Catherine.
Dawson, yes.
Ted.
Yes.
And Bill Lawrence, yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anything else we want to deal with tonight on the, I know we're waiting for Cap. How about, yeah, we haven't, I haven't
Do you
seen the
want me-
Pines.
Do you want me to take a minute to go and send the Pines to you? The information that was sent? I can send it now. Have time to review it. It's understandable as well.
Yeah, I think I'd rather just look at it later.
Okay. Sorry about that. Thought it was attached to the whole email string.
So next week we'll have the police, and we'll try to finish up on the Pines, Cap, and youth assistance. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Good.
Excellent.
There is an interesting review of all the police departments in the state. You may have heard about the NHPR study. I think it was 2018. It just rates all the different police departments and highway departments. You just go to NHPR and say police study. It's something interesting to look at.
Is it
But,
current? Is it, Bill? Is it current information from 2018?
I think it was 2018.
Okay. Thanks.
Otherwise, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Dawson, second.
All right. Well, roll call. John.
Scanlon, yes.
Catherine.
Dawson, yes.
Ted.
Yes.
Bill Lawrence, yes, at 8:55.
Great.
Great. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody.
Anybody have any questions? You can always call me. You know where I am.
Mhm.